Okay, tonight we have a special guest on advocacy. Um, as you can see, I don't have my other co-host here, but what we're gonna start doing is we're gonna start showcasing other parents, and we're going to start just hearing different stories and different experiences about other parents and how they've been affected by having a child with a disability and dealing with the system, dealing with the state, dealing with state funds, federal funds, or lack of. So tonight we have Ebony. Everybody give some love to Ebony. And we want to talk about her son, Caden. So Ebony, just give us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Ebony. I have two beautiful children, Caden, who goes to school with Miss Morgan, and I have a 5-year old named Harley. That's pretty much it. I have the love and support of my family who helps as much as possible, and I appreciate everything that they do. So we just take it one day at a time.
Okay, okay. So give us some background as far as Aiden. Is he your oldest? Is he your youngest? What's his age and everything?
So Caden is 10. He is my oldest. He's 5'3" and 195 pounds.
Yeah, I've seen him at the school.
He wears a size 10 and a half double wide men's shoes. So we just going to leave it right there. It's
He's
only
a
going to get
lot
worse.
to contend with. He's a lot to contend with. Wow, I've seen him at the school, and he always seems so pleasant. When I saw him, I was like, "Wow, I've seen him before." And that's when I remember I had seen him on Letitia's page.
Yes, ma'am. I call him my Sour Patch Kid. He's sour than he's sweet, more sour than sweet most of the time, but that is my baby. But he is the oldest of
Okay.
my two. Um,
Mhm.
and like I said, we just take it one day at a time because that's all we can do.
Okay, explain to me when you say he's your sour patch. Give us a little bit more information. Well, before we do that, tell us a little bit about his disability.
So Caden has been diagnosed with, I just like to say the alphabet, ADHD, autism, aggressiveness, developmental delay, you name it, he pretty much has been diagnosed with it. We see several doctors, Kennedy Krieger Children's Hospital. Children's Hospital doesn't do as much as Kennedy Krieger now does, but
Hmm.
I do appreciate it because if you go to the emergency room for children's, they be like, well, why didn't you take them to John Hopkins?
Hmm.
If
Hmm.
we're in crisis mode, I'm getting to where I can get to the fastest I can get there, and children's is a lot faster. I mean, closer than John Hopkins in Baltimore. Um, so just like I said, he's been diagnosed with the alphabet, and we just take every diagnosis and add it to the list and keep it moving.
So I'm assuming on his IEP, and I know it probably reflects this, like Morgan's, you have multiple disabilities,
Yeah,
correct?
yes.
Okay.
And I
Um,
actually had to fight for that title because when I asked for it when he was in public school, they came
mhm.
in with the legal pad. Oh no, we can't give him that, so on and so forth. And then, oh yeah, now he can have it the next IEP after that one. Oh yeah, we're going to give him that title. So
Okay, so with the multiple disabilities,
yeah,
what did they have it before that?
a developmental delay.
Okay, so they
That's all
did
they have.
not, because I know at a certain age, I don't know the age off the top of my head, but at a certain age, they have to be more clear as far as their disability. They just can't say developmentally delayed.
Well, I had given them several documentation, his autism diagnosis and several other diagnoses. And the county that I live in told me because I didn't include them in my research and my documentation, that it wasn't valid in the school board. I said, well, when you start paying my bills and you take my child to and from his doctor's appointments, then you can tell me what's valid and what's not valid.
It's definitely a fight. It
Yeah.
definitely is. Now tell me this: how long has Caden been at Kennedy Krieger?
So this is his second year at Kennedy Krieger non-public. He has a 2-hour bus ride to and from school every day, but trust me, the school has definitely made a difference. The one-on-one
Mhm.
interactions with his teachers and one-on-one staff, even to the smaller classrooms, have definitely made a difference in my son's life. The worst part is just the 2-hour bus ride, but he loves the school and the
Okay, so
staff.
tell me a little bit about when he was in mainstream. Tell me what did his classrooms and his day look like in mainstream?
So his regular classroom probably had roughly 10 children in it, the teacher aide, and maybe one other um, peer educator in the class. His last year of public school, there was a lot of, how can I put this? A lot of BS. I'm just gonna put it like that. So they
Okay.
put in all these extra bodies in the school, but then once my child was removed from the school, they removed those bodies from the classroom and the school instead of keeping them in place for my son's peers, which also needed the assistance.
Okay.
But even when he would go to school in public school, I said, Caden, how was your day at school? Oh, I slept all day. I played Roblox. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so my child comes to school and he sleeps? Well, if he's tired, we'll let him sleep. No, he's here to learn. I mean, I can't go to work and say I'm tired and still expect a paycheck. So you can't tell me my child has come to school, you've let him sleep, and he's had a good education for the day.
Okay, so that's depriving him. For those that don't know, that's in the No Child Left Behind. That's you can't deprive a child of their educational rights. Our children still have a right to free education. So
Yes.
that's something that's definitely in the No Child Left Behind. So tell me this, Ebony, what was your process as far as getting him out of public schools and into Kennedy Krieger?
So the process of getting him out of public school was crossing my T's and dotting my I's and calling the public school on everything that they were doing wrong.
Hmm.
Um, my son had actually got suspended on the first day of school, his last school year there. And I had to call a lawyer from Public Place in Baltimore. They assisted me with getting my son's suspension taken off his record. He had not had a psych evaluation or anything in the public school, so technically they could not suspend him from school because of his age and his grade. So with that, there was lawyers involved from Public Justice in Baltimore, and then of course my county had put in their lawyers. They had to take all that off the table. Then I guess they just finally got fed up with me, calling them on everything that they were doing. And then they finally offered us non-public school. They
Hmm.
offered us the LEAP program in Baltimore. They offered us the foundation school in Upper Marlboro, which was like a penitentiary. So please don't let
Oh
anybody
wow.
shout. All the kids were zombies. Everybody was medicated and they were just zonked out.
I've never heard of that school either. That
Called,
wasn't one of the schools I visited.
it's called the foundation school. It's around the corner from FedEx Field. The walls are padded. Every wall was padded. Every door was locked. There was no gym. There was a gym. There was no playground. There was nothing at that school. All the kids were just drugged out.
Wow.
I even left the building, I told my sister, I said, this is not where my child is going. I said, there's no way in the
Mm,
world my child is coming to the school. They also offered us a school in Virginia, but thank goodness we finally got into Kennedy Krieger in Baltimore, which, like I said, my
okay.
son loves. Um,
Okay.
it was kind of drawn out, but I'm thankful that the process was drawn out because we got into the right school.
So you didn't have to hire a lawyer. You didn't have to fight the school system. The school system basically offered it to you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's some of the things that most of the parents are trying to prevent because unlike you, I had to hire a lawyer. They weren't trying to let Morgan go. So I had to hire a lawyer and I had to fight the school system. And they,
Excuse me.
bless you,
Thank
they
you.
knew that they couldn't educate her, but they wasn't trying to let go of her. They wasn't. So, I did have to hire a lawyer. And I think some parents, of course, as we know, a lot of parents, we don't have the money for a lawyer. And not only that, when you're paying for everything else, how do you fit a lawyer's fee in it? And then who knows how long that fight is going to go?
Right.
Yeah. So give us a little information about Caden and what he's doing at Kennedy Krieger and how you've seen improvement.
So at Kennedy Krieger, I think my son is called the mayor because he knows everybody and everybody knows him. My son is
Okay.
verbal, so he will speak to everybody. He will know their names. He knows what classroom every child is in. Um, I think he even knows pretty much all the bus drivers at the school. So he goes on the community based outings, which he loves, even if it's just to Target to go to Starbucks, because I'm not buying Starbucks. Uh, even if it's just to go to Target to go to Starbucks and get a cake pop, he's content with that. Trader Joe's, we don't have one down here. They go there. Um, he just loves it. Whether they're going to just a park for a nature walk, even if he's only walking 5 steps, he's enjoying that outing and that nature walk at that park. Um, he's more social. He's always been social, but he just seems to be more social. And he can come home and tell me, most importantly, what he did at school that day. Caden, what did you
Wow.
learn? what words did y'all work on? What did you do? Did you go swimming today? Because it's Monday. Y'all, you go to swimming every Monday. He can tell me what they actually did compared to when he was in public school. All he did was sleep all day long. So
So
it's a little
what are
thing, but
some of the
it's
things
definitely
he's
big.
done? What are some of the things like give us a normal day for him, like and what he comes home and tells you he's done in a normal day.
Well, his most important thing that he does at school is lunch, breakfast, the food aspect of it, like most children. So he'll tell me what he had for lunch and for breakfast and for snack, and he'll tell me that he assisted with snack. He'll tell me if the snack cart came around, if he had money to go out to the snack cart and buy. He'll tell me who was at the school. If he's seen you at the school, he'll say, "I saw Morgan's mom at school today." He'll tell me if he went to talk to the secretary, if it's the female secretary there or the male secretary at the window. He can tell me everything about the school. Mr. Fred, the guy who's in charge of buses, and tell me about any and everything, or if somebody came into his classroom. So again, he can tell me the difference between what he learned, what he did compared to I just slept all day. So it's
Wow.
definitely a big difference and appreciated.
Wow. Now, how many kids is in his class at Kennedy Krieger?
I believe there's 6. I'm
Okay.
counting because a couple of them have left his classroom from the elementary class and gone to the middle school class. So I
Okay.
believe there's 6 kids, 6 staff, and then 1 teacher. So there's 7 adults in the room.
So he hasn't started going because Morgan is in the transition phase, which is very interesting. So he hasn't started going through the transition phase. Is there a phase that he's going through that I think it's he's still at the elementary level, right?
Yes, yes. He's still considered the
Oh,
elementary class.
okay, okay. So they haven't started kind of piquing his interest about other things that, he's trying to get involved in.
No, he just the outings to the out in the community. That's his interest for the day, or when they just go out and walk around the campus. He's completely content with that.
Now, is he on the certificate path or on the diploma path?
Certificate.
Okay, okay. And I know we talked earlier and you said something may change with that. Is that still something that you're hoping or you're pursuing that that pathway will change?
Well, I'm hoping that the pathway will change for him to be able to receive a diploma. If not, if it's just a certificate, we'll take what we get. Um,
Okay.
but like I said, even with if he stays in Baltimore for school or if he comes down to St. Mary's for school, I just think he'll have more opportunities in Baltimore compared to the opportunities in St. Mary's.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because there is a Kennedy Krieger in Baltimore for those that don't know, because I didn't know. And at one point I considered sending Morgan there, but for me, Morgan does not like change. Change is for those that don't know, a lot of our kids are routine driven. And then once they get used to certain people, it's just like the rest of us. They don't want to be uprooted and change. So for me, I wanted to keep her in Baltimore. This is how close is Kennedy Krieger in St. Mary's to you?
10 minutes,
Okay,
10
10
maybe
minutes.
15 at the
Okay.
most.
Okay. So I know we talked earlier and I wanted you to tell us, Ebony, how why you did not welcome that change for her your for Kaden to go to the Kennedy Krieger in St. Mary's County instead of Baltimore, even though it's like 10 minutes away from you versus him riding 2 hours.
Well, just like you and Morgan, when Caden gets used to routine, it's routine and he's comfortable with it. He's comfortable with the
Mhm.
staff. He's comfortable with his classmates. He's comfortable with everything except for that 2 hour drive. He eventually falls asleep or plays with his tablet. But I just feel like with him being in Baltimore, he'll have more opportunities. He'll be exposed to more things. If he's here at St. Mary's and they go for a community-based outing to Walmart, he may see me in the store, and then he'll want to come home. He may see my mother or my sister or, another
Mhm.
family member, have a moment, and then want to come home. And it's like, no, you have to be in school and you have to focus. At least in Baltimore, if he sees somebody he knows, it'll be very rare. Um, and he'll be able to focus and continue the task at hand.
Mhm.
So that's why I didn't want him to come to St. Mary's. And then most importantly, if he does end up on a diplomacy track, he may again have more opportunities for maybe job placement. He'll be
Mhm.
exposed to more things. There may be more things that are available to him, and that's what I want for him. I don't want him to be sheltered and coddled. I want him to be able to explore the world and experience life the way
That's
everybody should be able to experience life.
that's right. I like that. I do.
Yeah.
Um, what is some of the services that he received at Kennedy Krieger?
He receives speech, PTOT, pretty much the same thing that everybody else does. Now he has other services outside in other departments at Kennedy Krieger as far as doctors. But just the regular PTOT speech, the
Okay.
one-on-one services,
Mhm.
just the normal.
Okay. So I hear you talk about him being more independent. Now I know I'm kind of more closer to this than you and Kaden, but I've met with several people and they talk about like the group homes and the placement, and I'm not comfortable with that at all. I think too because Morgan is nonverbal, but I can't even say that because if she was verbal, maybe it's because she's a girl. I don't know, but I just don't think I would be as comfortable. How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't know how it would feel with him being in a group home because I do know
Mhm.
he's able to express himself, but I still know the world and the people in the world.
Yes.
If he were to go to a group home later on in life, it would have to be somewhere close. And
Okay.
if I don't pop up every day, I'm gonna pop up every other day. Because he will always be my baby. But I
Yes.
want him to have some independence. I don't. I mean, of course, I want him to have all his independence, but I know he's not going to have all of his independence. But I want him to have some independence to where he can tell me he wants this or that, or he wants to go here or there. But as far as independently living on his own, I know that's not going to be a possibility later on in life. If anything, it would definitely be a group home. But like I said, I will be popping up every day, if not every other day.
Hmm. Yeah, and some of the people were like, "Well, you have to kind of let go." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Mm-mm.
I will to a certain extent, but for me, just the world, like you just said, the world, the way this world is, I don't even. My son is neurotypical, and he's 23, and he can tell you I don't even want him going anywhere, let alone Morgan, because these
Right.
people are just cruel these days. And when they can see a time where they can take advantage of somebody, they do just that. So for
Exactly.
me, yeah, I'm just mm-mm. Now tell me what's his weekends look like? What do you guys do as far as activities?
Well, his weekends, because Caden is Caden, he's still up every morning at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh
When you're
my
trying to
goodness.
sleep, he's
Oh
up at
my
4:30 in the
goodness.
morning. He's ready for breakfast, and I don't mean a bowl of cereal. He wants a full breakfast.
Oh my
Um, so we're
goodness.
up getting breakfast. Depending on what mood he's in, we may venture out, but if not, we'll stay in the house. We'll watch movies. We'll play on his tablet. We'll do, family stuff, play a game. If we are able to venture out, we may go like to Solomon's, to Amory Gardens or something, and walk a path, or we may try to go to the aquarium or the zoo, just depending on the weather. But again, it just depends on his attitude and his mood at the time. But I do try to get him out and about in the community, and just, like I said, enjoy life to the best that we can.
So you speak a lot about his mood and different things like that. I know Morgan, most of the people that know me know Morgan has behavioral issues. And I think a lot of her stem from the fact that she's not verbal, she's not able to verbalize, or we may be feeding her food that she doesn't like. We may be taking her around people that she doesn't feel comfortable with. What's some of Caden's behavioral issues that you deal with?
Let's
I
see.
know, believe me.
Like I said, he's a Sour Patch Kid. Caden is very aggressive. He's very aggressive, and with his size, it makes it even harder when he's aggressive.
Okay.
He has a lot of bully mentality, so he tries to bully you or put his weight on you, like it's going to back you down. Um, so like if we're going out the house, he could perfectly walk out the house fine, but between the sidewalk and the car, he'll drop, and it
Yep.
takes 15, 20 minutes to get him up, get him in the car. He can be at my sister's house and have a total meltdown and be aggressive, and I have to go to her house and pick him up. Then I have to drive my car all the way to my front door just to get him out the car and in the house, compared to
Wow.
allowing him to walk down the sidewalk. Even school bus, getting on the bus in the morning, we can walk out the house. He can get to the steps of the bus and like, nope, I'm not getting on the bus. Um, or we get him on the bus and we may have to lift him and get him in the seat on the bus and get him strapped in. So like I said, it's just more aggressive, um, trying to bully,
Do
but
you find that the older he gets, he's like that, or was he always like that?
he's always been aggressive. He's been aggressive since he was a baby. And I was hoping that he would grow out of it, but he hasn't. It seems like it gets worse and worse as he gets older and with size. So that's why I said hopefully later on in life things will change and we can change the path that we're on. But
Mhm.
we just, like I said, we take it one day at a time. But it's just mostly the aggressive and the bullying, and because of his size and his age, I just, for the most part, I
Yeah,
don't want people to react before they question the situation. And with today's society,
exactly.
that's what it's going to end up being. They're going to react before they say, "Hold on, there's something going on with this kid," before you know, they do
And
anything.
that's funny that you say that because again, for me, Morgan is so small, and but it still can be dead weight. That's a
Hmm.
lot of dead weight. When she drops to the ground or when she's having her meltdown, a lot of the times now what we've done is allow her to have it. And I'm like, some people think that we can be like kind of harsh, but I'm not because man, my husband will be like, I'm not breaking my back. Like
Exactly.
she'll drop when she's coming in the house, she's going through the head banging stage, where we keep a helmet on her head or something. We used to be, a little afraid to take her out in public because we didn't know what people were going to think. But we got to the point we didn't even care. I'm
Right.
like, she's not going to sit here and bang her head all day long. Some of it, I believe, is behavioral. Other thing, also she has hydrocephalus, so I believe some of it could be the hydrocephalus, but you got to be able to distinguish what is behavioral and what is from a medical standpoint.
Right.
But I always would say I wish she could talk to me because I think her being able to talk to me would kind of limit these behaviors. But from what I'm hearing, you with Kaden, it doesn't always happen like that. What are
No,
his triggers? What are his
and that's
triggers? Do he
that is the one question everybody asks. What is his trigger? And my response is because the sky's blue. Because I have no clue. He can be walking
Can
out
you
the
say
house.
that hasn't recognized it?
He does a lot of attention seeking, which there's no reason because he gets everybody's attention. Like I have a Ring doorbell and a camera out front of my house, and he can be walking down the sidewalk perfectly fine, and then just turn around and swing on somebody for absolutely no reason. It could be a beautiful day
Really?
outside. It can be raining outside. Absolutely no reason. He can be sitting on the couch, sitting there watching his tablet and just throw it. And again, no reason other than, like I said, because the sky's blue. And even when I ask him now, I'm like, Caden, why did you do it? Because the sky's blue. So he goes off of what I said. There's no smell, there's no sound, there's no situation. It just, like I said, because the sky's blue. And there's no real answer for why he does what he does. I mean, he
Now,
has diagnosis of like the right side of his cerebellum didn't develop all the way, and he's missing his corpus callosum. He has a
Morgan.
chromosome. He has a chromosome
Morgan.
duplication of 16PQ something something something. Like I said, we can go down the alphabet. Caden has it. But there's no explanation for why he does what he does. Medication changes, psychiatrist appointments, nothing changes. It may change for a week or two, but then it's like right back to the same thing. Right back to the
Yeah,
same thing. And
it's,
like I
it's
said,
funny that you mentioned like the corpus callosum and all of that type of stuff. Morgan has her corpus callosum is thin. It's very thin, but it's there. But they're saying that it's very thin. Do you have because they've tried Morgan on medication for her behavior because she started pulling her hair. She pulled just about all of her hair out. I cried like a baby
oh my goodness.
because she had one big bush ball. If you look through some of my pictures on Facebook, Morgan's bush ball was so big. And one day she just started pulling her hair out. I think that she had a surgery. She had a orthopedic surgery. She was out of school for 3 months. Um because she could not walk on her foot at all. They said it was like being on wet cement, and if she walked on it, it was like gonna crumble apart. But they had to
Oh my goodness.
basically go in and put like metal in her foot. They had to rebuild her foot because she walked on her tippy toes. Um, and so at that point, we definitely had to do the surgery. And what they did was they waited until she had her cycle. because they felt like she would stop growing, because they would do the Botox shots in her calves to loosen her muscles, and they would put her in braces and all of that. But at some point, every time she grew, it would go back again to the same thing. And every time she went through a growth spur, we would have to start all over again. So what they said is, let's do a permanent situation. I was like, okay, that's fine. But little did I know what that permanent situation looked like. It was her being off of her foot for 3 months. She couldn't walk up and down the steps. She couldn't go to school because, of course, Kennedy Krieger did not want to be responsible, which I understood that if
Right.
something was to happen, it's on them. So right after that, she started pulling out her hair. And I mean, it went to this day, she still does it. I mean, I used to put her hair in braids and add in the hair. Um, and at this point now, I did that to protect her hair. So when she pulling it, it's pulling the fake hair. It's
Right.
helped out a lot, but sometimes that takes its toll on you doing her hair like that. Adding in the hair and it lasts a week and then I have to start all over again. So now I've just put her hair, I did her hair, and it's I just recognize some of the things. I try to identify her. I try to study her and try to identify what are her triggers. But like you, Ebony, there are times that I just I don't understand it.
Right.
And sometimes she's going through a crying spell. And some people will say, well, what's wrong with her? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just as
Right.
clueless as you. So it's like trying to navigate through, unfamiliar territory, but at the same time trying to love them and understand them at the same time.
Exactly. And it's funny you should say the surgery because Caden actually has to have foot surgery. I guess it'll be by the end of the year because of his braces and not having an arch in his foot. So they want to rebuild both of his feet. But they told me 6 to 8 weeks. But if you say in 3 months,
Well, hers was, I'm gonna say hers was because she was on her tippy toes.
mhm,
Um, and they told me she could not stand on her foot. It was only her left foot. But they did the Botox. They had her in cast. When I tell you, I tell everybody, I thought I would lose my mind. My son was away at school. I wasn't married. I was basically doing it by myself. She wouldn't sleep. They had her on Percocet. They gave her melatonin. They gave her muscle relaxers. And when I say she would stay up all night long,
my goodness.
so it was like throughout that period, I did not sleep. But what I recognized though, I did not realize the orthopedic surgeries were that intense. They were. Then they sent us home. She had it at Children's. They sent us home, and we have steps. We had to leave that same day and go back to the hospital, and we had to go to rehab. We went to the hospital of sick children. So here I am staying up there for like 3 weeks. I was away from my house like 3 to 4 weeks, sleeping on a couch. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that was the worst surgery ever. I hope yours is nothing like that.
Well, it's supposed to be at children, so I'm hoping it's not like that. I might have to rethink this.
Now, I mean, and I will say this, the benefit afterwards was great. She still has to wear braces, but she they basically said her foot would be totally infected if I did not do this, because she continued to get like these thick calluses because she walked on her toes so much. She developed these thick calluses, and they said it was going to cause so much of an infection.
Okay.
Every time we got the callus off, it came back, and then it messed up her when it came to stability. Walking on your toes is like being a ballet. You walk in ballet like you're a ballet dancer forever. And so there would be times that she would fall a lot because she wasn't as stable on her toes. I can say Morgan had that surgery in 2019. It's 4 years later, she's still walking completely flat. So
Okay.
the benefit definitely outweighed the recovery. The recovery was
Okay.
awful. I'm not even gonna lie. It was like me being in jail. Every day I put an X on the calendar and I was like, we made it through this day. Yeah. So it definitely. Then tell me, why does he have to have this surgery? What is his diagnosis as far as
So
his feet?
he's so flat footed, and then his ankle is just swollen. Like all the pressure is on his ankle instead
Oh
of on his
wow.
foot because his foot is flat. And the right foot is worse than the left foot, and then he's out like this. So
Okay.
they did a CT, and now they're like, well, we can bring the, and I think it's because it's bending out from here instead of up at the hip. So they want to
Mm-hmm.
bring his feet together and then give him an arch so that way it's less painful because he does say his feet hurt and he does
Oh
wear
wow.
AFOs and the braces and nothing has helped him bring it in or taking the pressure off his feet. But him, like other kids, he'd rather wear Crocs than wear his braces and tennis shoes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but his foot is
So
so flat that it's ridiculous.
would this be a permanent fix?
Yes, she said it would be a permanent fix. But she said if we waited until he got older, it would probably be a worse recovery because he's only going to get bigger and heavier and
Hmm.
taller. So I'm like, could y'all have done this when he was 40
I
pounds
know.
lighter?
But you know what? Most of the time, even if they had done it when he was younger, when he went through his growth spurt, it would kind of knock things out of whack again.
Right.
Did he ever get Botox shots?
No, no Botox.
Okay, okay. Would he still have to wear his AFOs?
She didn't say if he would still have to wear them. I'm
Okay.
hoping not, or at least maybe the first couple months after the surgery to, just support the arch. But she didn't say whether or not he would still have to wear them.
Yeah, because I was a little, I mean, and they weren't clear with that with me. I thought that once Morgan had this surgery, she would never have to wear AFOs again, but she still has to wear them because it's almost like it's a reinforcement. It's
Right,
almost like braces. You know how you get your braces off and you don't wear your retainer? The foot has a memory and it goes right back into place.
right,
Yeah, so what I normally do is a lot of the times on weekends, well, I keep the braces at the school during the week. They send them home on weekends. She rides in her regular shoes. They keep the braces, they put them on at school. She wears them all at school, and then when she rides back, she puts her regular shoes on. And I did that because in the wintertime, Morgan has poor circulation in her feet, and when she would get here, her feet would be like icicles.
right.
Yeah, her feet would be like icicles. So I was like, oh, let me get my, I'm sorry. Let me
You're
get my
fine.
phone because it'll keep going on. But her feet would be like icicles. And so for me, I just would keep for me, I would just have to keep, when she get in here, it's almost like I had to soak her feet in hot water. That's how
Right.
cold her feet. So her circulation is so poor. But one of the things that they said affected, and I've read what affected her stability too, is the absence of a full corpus callosum. That affects her balance. So when she doesn't have that corpus callosum, it affects the balance of, your children when they walk and everything.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that should be interesting. I would definitely hope that this will correct the problem because yeah, a lot of that right there, it's like I know with Morgan, I would see different marks on her feet. Oh my goodness. I would put some of that stuff on there and try to scrape the callus off. It was like thick as like a rock.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I'm definitely glad with that. Now let me ask you this, because I know with Morgan having her corpus callosum being like the smaller than the average size, it started making her have seizures. Does he have any type of seizure condition?
So we started with seizures right before he turned 2 months old. Seeing neurology. That's he had his first seizure right before his 2 month mark. And they lasted probably until he was probably about 5 or 6. I think is when he's had the last seizure. He hasn't had any since.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so he
Okay.
hasn't been on seizure medication or anything since then. But yeah, we've been doing very well, and hopefully it stays that way. It's just because even when he started seizure medicine, we thought that was what was making him aggressive, but that's just him. So,
So did they
but we,
ever take him off of his seizure medicine or they
yeah,
keep him on it?
no, he hasn't been on seizure medicine in 4 or 5 years now. So no more seizure
So
medicine.
did they ever identify why he had seizures?
No, No.
Wow.
So they
Okay.
couldn't tell me if it was the corpus callosum, the right side cerebellum development missing, and the whole right side weakness. They couldn't give me any of that information. They still to this day haven't given to, or if it was due to the partial chromosome duplication. Um, like I said, every day is a mystery. It's something new, but
Hmm.
they've never given me a reason as to why.
Now, Morgan's chromosome abnormality, she has her number six is duplicated, and they told me it was so rare they didn't know what to expect other than developmental delays. Is his rare, or is that something? I know the more common one is Down syndrome. Does he have? Is this a rare disability? I mean, a rare genetic disorder?
So it's a rare genetic disorder. When Caden was first diagnosed, it was all within the first year of life. They said there was so little research on it that they couldn't really tell me anything other than developmental delay, just like yours. Then they said when he was diagnosed with autism, they said, well, autism could be associated with it. So it's like every time you get a diagnosis, it could be associated with that because there's, again, still no definite answer. We've recently seen genetics up at Kendi Krieger, and of course, they've
Mhm.
said the same things. They continue to do more genetic testing, and they still can't tell me anything new, anything that can give me any reasoning as to any of the behaviors other than what has already been diagnosed. But there's no there's no cut and paste or
Mhm.
definition of any of these diagnoses other than they just associate everything with developmental delay
Now
and
I know.
autism.
Now I know for me, I had a miscarriage right before Morgan, and they didn't do a DNC, and I got pregnant right behind her. So that's what I can kind of, I believe. I don't know, but I believe that her duplication came from the fact that they didn't do a DNC. Did you have anything that was going on in your life that could really point to why he had a genetic disorder?
No, I had lost 90 pounds prior to getting pregnant with my son. I had had
Okay.
weight loss surgery,
Okay.
and got pregnant 6 months after I had had the weight loss surgery. So I'd lost 90 pounds. I had a miscarriage years prior to that, but
Okay.
had never conceived again prior to having my son. Um, Nobody in my immediate family.
Hmm.
I mean, there's people that have, we all have mental issues. Nobody's perfect. But
Exactly.
no, you know,
How about that?
we. I have a cousin who has a son who I still don't know all of his diagnosis that lives in Georgia. And nobody immediate family who's had any, health issues. His other half, I can say some other names, but his other half's family, um, has some issues. But again, if that's where
Okay.
it's from, that's where it's from. It is what it is.
Mhm.
I take care of my child. I do what I'm supposed to do. So we
That's
just roll
right.
with the
That's
punches. We
right.
just roll with the punches.
How
But
about that?
even when I was pregnant with him, I went to have a sonogram done. And that day in the doctor's office, they called me in the office. They told me only half of his heart was pumping, and they told me his brain wasn't developing the right way. So they gave me the option that I had to make a decision. Either I was going to have it amniocentesis done, or I was going to have to abort my child. And I said, I'm not aborting my child. I said, if only a half of his heart is pumping, I'm going to have him. I'm going to meet him. Either you're going to whisk him off the surgery or he's going to pass away, but I'm going to meet my child. Then, I went for a fetal echo. There was nothing wrong with his heart. He was laying on his stomach that day. So the sonogram person and the doctor didn't know what they were talking about in that appointment.
Hmm.
Then they told me his brain wasn't developing all the way. I said, well, you know what? I've worked with people with developmental delays all of my life. I'll just take it one day at a time with my child. So there was nothing that indicated what caused the actual chromosome duplication or any of the other disorders that have happened with my child. But like I said, just one day at a time.
That's right. But
Just one day at a time.
I think that's a, and some people may look at it as a really bold decision. And I feel the same way. I'm not gonna lie, I was afraid because this was something that the unknown, I didn't
Right,
buy for my daughter until I was pregnant with her for 4 months. When I was pregnant with my son, I just started buying away. They say you're not supposed to buy, but I was just buying away.
right.
But with her, I was so afraid because I'm not like you. I knew I wasn't going to abort my child, but they didn't even really know what was going on with her. They didn't. So I was dealing with the unknown. I did not honestly get to know and understand what was going on with her until I had her. But as I
Right.
was going into the hospital to have her, they were taking her by C-section. I honestly was afraid. I'm not even gonna lie. I was afraid, but I was afraid, but I wouldn't change anything. And I was just like, I can't honestly abort my daughter with, even if I knew everything, with,
Right.
I just couldn't do that and sleep at night. That was just me. And I'm not knocking anybody else that makes that decision, but for me, I couldn't do that. I couldn't.
Right.
My
Right.
brother had a daughter, and I'm sure he doesn't mind me sharing this, but when his wife was pregnant, she did the amnio, and they told them that their daughter was going to be Down syndrome, and she came out completely healthy.
Right.
So I think sometimes you're faced with a decision, and these people only know but so much. But it's like for me, I just could not take that chance. And like I said, even if they had it where my daughter was Down syndrome, then she's going to be Down syndrome. But there's no way
Exactly.
I can throw her away and start over without understanding and knowing that that was a part of me. I can't do that and
I
sleep at
agree.
night. I just couldn't
I
do
agree.
it. Mm-mm.
Well,
So
that's just like with my, I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
definitely applaud you. No, I applaud you because everybody can make that decision. I mean, and again, I don't knock people, but I just, I'm with you. I couldn't do that.
Right. And that's just like with my second child. I had actually had a miscarriage the month prior to me getting pregnant with her. And when I got pregnant with her, like you, I wasn't attached. I couldn't buy nothing. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm just going through the motions because in my mind, am I going to repeat the same thing that I went through with Caden? And got all the genetic testing, everything done. And I'm like, they were like, no, everything's fine. And she's fine. She bad like all the rest of the kids. And Caden's biggest supportive. Caden has a moment and I'm at my breaking point. She's protecting her big brother. So that they're two peas in the pod, but I feel you. It's stressful. Stressful.
Yeah.
Healthy child, unhealthy child, a child you're gonna love, but it's definitely stressful.
Now, how do you deal with the sleepless nights? I think you said, does he sleep good?
Melatonin is my best friend.
Okay, okay. Yeah, because
So
we've gone
sleeping is
through
not an issue. But the thing is, because he gets up at 4:30 every morning, if there is a night where he's like, I'm not going to sleep, I'm wired. He's normally in the bed by 7:30 every night, so that's not even an issue. Before we got on here tonight,
Good
he was going
Lord.
upstairs to go to bed. So it's just he's up every
He
morning at
sleeps all
4:30.
night,
Yes,
even when he sleeps on the bus?
yes. But when he sleeps on the bus, it's because he's been fighting prior to getting on the bus, or he's fighting while he's on the bus, and then he tires himself out and he can't move out of his harness. So he'll fall asleep. And then they say when he wakes up, he's perfectly fine. But yeah, he
Wow.
comes
Wow.
home, he's tired, and he comes in the house, eats dinner, gets his bath, relax for a little bit, and then he's going to bed.
Now, on the weekends when he gets up at like four something after you feed him, does he go back to sleep?
No.
No. Man, people don't understand. I'm
And
telling
he just
you,
want to talk and talk and talk.
and so what do you do? What do you do?
I listen. I tell him I'm on red. I'm not available at the moment, and he still talks. And my daughter will be like, "Kate, no, I'm not available. I'm on red too."
Oh my
So
goodness.
we just
So
go
you
with
have a
it.
great support system, though. That's one thing you were telling me before we got on, is that you have a great support system. And I think, as we know, that is something that we all need. We need them for our typical kids. But just the fact that we go through so much with these other children, we definitely need that support system. We need to be able to tap out, go get some rest, because I think sometimes when you don't get that, that's when a lot of kids are mistreated, abused, and that's just real life. That's just real
Yeah.
life. Tell me about your support system.
So my mother actually lives with me. She helps when she can, but like you said, when Morgan drops and you're not going to break your back, my mother and my sister are the ones. Caden, get up, get up, get up, get up, and I'm like, let him sit there, because the only person that's
Yeah,
going to end up getting hurt is y'all. He's going to be fine.
yeah, yeah.
So my mother and my sister both help. My ex husband helps as much as he can.
Okay.
But it's just mostly myself, my mother, and my sister. So, and my father lives in Florida. My other sister lives in Alabama. But when they're around, they help as much as they can too. But you know, it's mostly me. I'm the one going back and forth between Baltimore and DC, the doctor's appointments, the school meetings. Um, I'm the main one.
Do you get a lot of me time to yourself?
What's that?
I know what you mean. I'm not even gonna lie. What changed that is when I got married in June of 2021. I promise you, my husband's birthday is tomorrow. I'm rolling out the red carpet for him because he has made a difference. And I tell everybody that when they see him on my page, they were like, "Oh my goodness, I went to California with my sister." When stuff come up, he's like, "Babe, go. I got her." We
Good.
have a we have a calendar that he'll go places, I'll go places, and then sometimes we'll go together and we'll just have either my son does things, she has good godmom, or we just bringing someone in to help out. But first of all, it's expensive who has the money all the time.
Right.
um and then the fact that Morgan is nonverbal, I'm a little nervous about that. Do you
Right.
have people outside of your family like that you pay to watch him?
No,
Oh my
because again,
goodness.
I don't trust people. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. But does your brother have a
Yeah.
cousin or a brother helping you out?
He is watching this. I'm telling you, he is awesome. When I just tell you, honestly, and I was separated and divorced for 14 years. I wash my hands of that because first of
Right.
all, for me, Morgan, she's nonverbal. I just can't trust everybody around her. And when we first started dating, Morgan would not let him touch her. She would pull away. She would not
Hmm.
let him touch her. But as time went on, when I say he stayed in her face, he spent time with her. He just would not give her space. I mean, and when I say today, she loves him. But
That's good.
that was the thing that really determined me marrying him, because I was like, my son was hardcore against him too, because of course he came in and my son was 21 or 22, and my son was like, nah, I ain't going for that. But then even for me, as he could warm up to my son and my son could kind of be like, all right, I like him. Morgan is a different beast. It's a
Right.
totally different beast. You can't buy her things, and you can't kiss her to pieces and think that that's going to get it. Nah, these kids, Morgan doesn't. There's nothing, like we said, there's a trigger for their behaviors. There's no good thing you can do for her that's going to make her like you. It's just
Okay.
not. So I knew that. So once Morgan started attaching herself to him, he's giving us the hundreds. That's right, babe. I'm giving you your props. I'm serious. Once Morgan started attaching herself to him, that's when I knew he was the one that I was supposed to be with. He was the one. He was the one. And I just was like, okay, I don't second guess it because of Morgan. I'm telling you,
Good.
she made the difference. So yes, we need some more harps out there. Harp. We need some more harps.
Yes.
We need
Yes.
some more hops. We need people that can come in and love our children. We do, because for years, Ebony, I don't know if you felt like this, but for me, I kissed away ever being with someone because I never thought someone could love her, because I felt like her own father couldn't love her the way that she should be loved. So I
Agreed.
just felt like, yeah, so I felt like, if he couldn't love her, how can somebody else love her? But there was Harp that came along. That's my husband's nickname. Harp came along and he just pulled on our heartstrings. And I'm just telling you, he's the best. He's the man that I was supposed to be with. And Morgan loves him like
Good.
that's her dad. And one thing else, I know Harp, I should have even started talking about him. But one thing that I loved about him is that he loved her unconditionally, because Morgan wasn't potty trained. I was afraid for him to know certain things. And I did tell him early on, just leave us alone. I said, because honestly, I don't want you have a free life. You can get with every woman that you want. You ain't got to deal with all of this.
Right.
I'm good with it. Let me do this because I did not want him to feel as though his life was restricted. I lived a restricted life. We could only go certain places. We could only do certain things. So for me, for somebody coming from being able to do everything and have fun and go anywhere, and to come into a situation like this, I didn't want him to come in with the understanding that you misled me. I put everything, as time went on, I just started putting everything on the table, and I was like, this is what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand.
So,
But yeah, I'm in the same boat, so I understand.
do you date?
I have a lot of broken promises.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you
Yeah.
just got to cut your ties and your focus are your children. So
And
Caden
that's
is
hard.
verbal.
That's hard because
Hmm.
we still want, at the end of the day, when all else fails, we still want somebody to just tell us it's going to be okay. We want
Right.
somebody to lighten the load for us. That's just the way it is.
I just want a shoulder to cry on. At the end of the day, when you've had a rough
How
day, you
about that?
just hold me and let me cry, and then I'm gonna be back to Superwoman. Give me 5 minutes. That's all I need. But
I can take my cape off for 5 minutes. I mean,
right,
I'm going to say this. Me and my husband have now reverted to him doing the AM. I had my alarm set. We would both get up and we be doing the AM, but he's more of a morning person. I'm more of an evening person. We have now evolved into him. He gets her up every single day and he gets her ready for the bus. He closes the door and lets me sleep. I
wonderful.
appreciate that. And for those that think that that's not a big deal, get up with these kids every day when you don't know what mood they're getting in, getting up, and some days they don't want to get dressed, some days they don't want to take their medication, some, like you say, some days they don't want to get on a bus. He contends with her in the morning. And when I wake up, the sun is out. And I'm like, is she gone? He, when it comes to her menstrual cycle, I mean, he does it all. He does it
That's
all. And I
wonderful.
just thank God for him. I do. I do.
That's wonderful.
Yes,
Definitely gotta give him a round of applause.
I'm giving him his early birthday shout out.
Happy early birthday.
Yes, because he deserves it. He deserves it. And I pray and I hope that every woman, not just with a disability, but I hope that every woman can be loved the way I feel like I'm
Yes,
loved. I appreciate
yes.
that. I appreciate that. So, tell me, what do you do when he goes through these moments and he's 190 pounds? Do you just let him sit there and duke it out on himself? What do you do? What methods do you use? And I some people ask me, what did they ask me? Do I use the the corporal punishment? They asked me, do I use corporal punishment?
So in
Some
my
of them,
case, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, it's because some of them teachers was looking at Morgan like, oh, she had a good understanding.
Hmm.
Do you use corporal punishment? I'm like, dang.
So corporal punishment, no. So when you go to the doctor's office and they ask you those series of questions, is there any abuse in the home? Is there any of this and of that? I'm like, yeah, there's abuse in the home. So they stop and they're looking. I'm like, he's the abuser. He's the only one that's abusing everybody. And they're like, oh, well, we don't have to put. No, you want to know he's the abuser. So if something
Right.
pops off,
That's
it's
right.
because of him.
That's right.
But I just try to clear the area, get everybody away from him, let him have his moment. If he charges at me, I got to block him. I have to block my daughter because she's only 5. My mother and my sister, Caden, calm down, calm down. Let him do his thing. Let him do his thing. Um, but yeah, we try to bring it down. Sometimes he can go from 1,000 to zero quickly, and then sometimes it's long and drawn out. So for the most part, I let him have his moment. Because I've already said one of us is going to end up in jail, and it'll probably be me. So
Yeah.
I let him. None of my neighbors have called the police on me yet, so I guess I'm good. But
Wow.
he's a lot. He's definitely a lot. Even
So what
from I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ebony.
Even sometimes in transporting him, I was coming from Prince Frederick one time and had to pull the car over and remove my daughter from this front seat. I mean the back seat, and put her in the front seat because he was in the back seat just walling
Wow.
out. And I'm like, I'm either gonna crash coming across this bridge, or I'm gonna get pulled over by the cops, and they're gonna lock me up for having my daughter in the front seat. But I'm trying to protect both children and
Mhm.
get us home safely. And one moment at a time at that point in time. It's not even one day at a time. It's one moment at a time. So no corporal punishment. It's just taking a deep breath and trying not to react and giving him more fuel to his fire and just letting him do his thing.
Ebony, man, when I just tell you I commend you, I do because I understand it. And it was times that we go places, and I tell people I don't take Morgan places. I don't take her everywhere because everybody doesn't understand that.
Right.
So if your house is not Morgan proof, we ain't going. And there are times that you can, I know some people would say how their kids went. One of my friends, she wrote a book and she was saying how when she didn't take her son everywhere. It's called Autism Island by Terry Cooks. I read it. Hopefully she'll be on our show in a couple of weeks, but she was saying the same thing. They stayed on their island. She said, because we didn't go everywhere. She said, we couldn't do everything. We couldn't go to family settings. She said, because people just did not understand. She said, with certain things that my son was doing that we couldn't even kind of manage it at home, let alone take it to someone else's home. So I
Right.
definitely understand that. So when people invite me, housewarmings, everything, sometimes people would think that you're being antisocial, but it's not that. It's just I told people, I said, it's more problems for me to take her out somewhere than to just stay home, or
Right.
take her somewhere that I know she's comfortable. I don't feel like taking her to somebody's house and everybody's sitting there having a good time and I'm chasing her around the house.
Well, not only chasing her around the house, it's different when it's people on the outside because you don't have to worry about seeing them ever again if they have a
Yeah.
comment or question. But it's totally different when it's your family and they have a comment about everything, and you're like, I could stay home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like a family function, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and it's that one family member that always has something to say, and you're just like, now I have to respect you because you're my elder, and I have to respect you because you're this part of the family member. But it's like if you break that straw, that last that nerve, or if my child is already working my nerves and then you're adding fuel to the fire,
Hmm.
I'm done. So there's a lot of times that I don't even go to family functions because I don't want to have to worry about hearing those family comments.
Yeah, because I know you've heard this. My cousin said this too, several of us, where people say all they need is a good butt whooping.
Hmm.
That'll cure the problem. It's like, oh, okay, try that.
Hmm.
If that would have cured the problem, I ain't even gonna lie, I'd rather go to jail and give them that butt whooping if I thought that that was all that was needed, but it's not.
But
You gotta employ so many different tactics to deal with these kids. You can't come with that corporal punishment and that's all. There's no way you'll be beating them to death because some of these kids' will is stronger than your hand.
and they don't
It's
feel
funny.
it. They don't feel it at all. It doesn't phase them.
No, no. And I know some of the my friend Jill was on here and my cousin Crystal. Crystal had the upper hand somewhat where she could take some of the things away from her kids. Morgan is more yeah, hubby said pain threshold is high. It is. So you
Hmm.
not you working yourself into a frenzy when you ain't getting anywhere.
Right.
But some people were like, well, do you take things from her? I said, she doesn't care about anything. My friend Jill said the same thing about his son. My cousin said that she could take the TV, I think it's their pads, their
Yeah.
iPads away from them, and
Hmm.
that's what gets to them. Morgan is the type, if you say don't touch that iPad, you go back over there, man, please. She picked up that iPad and walked off like you don't tell me nothing to do.
Right.
What I'm gonna do?
Right.
Yeah. Now I will say that some of the things that get to her is she'll be trying to come and explain babble and trying to kiss me. I said, I don't want to hear it. And then she'll sit there and she'll look at me and then she'll keep trying to come over there. And I'm like, leave me alone. I don't want to be bothered. That's what gets to her.
Hmm. Caden is
That's
the
what
same
gets
way, and he has to touch you and tug on you and pull on you, and that, like I said, that bullying mentality, and and you just ignore him, and then eventually he'll be like, and just walk away. But I'm like, first of all, you gotta stop touching me because you might touch the wrong person and they take it the wrong way. So I need you to stop
Mhm,
grabbing and pulling on people because everybody doesn't like that. So,
mhm.
but he just wants to tug and try to get your attention, and I'm like, hey, leave me alone, leave me alone. And it's just constantly pulling and mom, mama. No, I'm gonna need you to sit down and relax, and then once you calm down, we can talk. But until you calm down, we have nothing to discuss. So
Wow. Now, have they ever? I know during the pandemic, they put Morgan on a medication for pulling her hair. We were trying to stop her from doing that, and they kept upping it to the point that she was sitting around crying all day long. The medicine made put her
oh
in
my goodness.
somewhat of a depressive state. And then that's when my husband came along. We were dating at the time. I was like, he was like, why does she cry all day? Is she crying because of me? And me and my son was like, we was trying to figure it out, but they told us the medication did not cause that. But it was. So we pulled her off the medication. To this day, I don't care what they prescribe. When they try to say, well, we're gonna give her this and she could show depressive states. And I said, no, I don't want none of that medication. I don't, and some people say it has worked. First of all, the dose that they would probably have to put Morgan on, it's gonna do more harm than good. Mm-mm. Yeah. Have you ever thought about putting him on medication?
He is currently on medication. Nothing has helped for anything. Nothing. It just hasn't helped. And then they'll up it because of his size. They have to trial it and slowly raise it up. But nothing has helped. We've gone to John Hopkins several times. We've gone to Children's Hospital, who has told me, why didn't I take him to John Hopkins? They've said they would do inpatient for him. Had to sit in the emergency room for up to 30 days for a placement in somewhere. And I'm like, I have to work. I got to bathe. Most importantly, I got to work. I mean, bathe. I can't sit in the hospital for 30 days in the same outfit. And I have another child, so I can't sit in an emergency room for 30 days for y'all to try to find a placement for my child. And then from there, I'm already away from my other child. I'm away from work. I'm not able to work and function and pay bills. And then they're like, okay, well, we refer you to outpatient. You get referred to outpatient, and it's still pretty much a waiting list. The medication doesn't work, and then it's
Wow.
always just trial and error, and more error than any
Yeah, you're
improvement.
right. So
So,
when they say inpatient, what does that consist of?
so I guess what they were saying they wanted to do, with meltdowns and stuff and aggressiveness, they were going to do, I guess, like an autism spectrum trial and try to find the right medication and stuff along those lines. But I'm like, I can't sit in an emergency room for 30 days for us to sit and watch all these other kids walk up and down the hallway and parents and, just, I can't do
It's
that. Mentally,
unrealistic.
I can't do that. I can't sit in an emergency room for 30 days. There's no way in the world. Nobody should have to sit in an emergency room for 30 days. And if you're getting all this money or not providing all these services for the kids, the money got to be somewhere. Y'all should be able to have facilities, and not necessarily a facility, a program that's going to help these kids and get them on the right track and do what needs to be helped. I mean, needs to be
Yeah.
done, but they don't they
Without
don't have
stressing
that.
the families too, because I think sometimes they don't think some of the things that they suggested for me with Morgan, it's like I work. I don't get a
Hmm.
like welfare check. I work. And even if I got that, I have kids. I have
Right.
another responsibility at home. Who's gonna pay my rent? I think I don't know. It's almost like, and I've said this for years, it's almost like we're penalized for having kids with disabilities because I
We are.
think they almost make us feel. I told people I've gone places and I've had to tell them I didn't have a drug problem. I wasn't an alcoholic. I did not. It's almost like you make me feel as though I brought this on myself, and I did not do these things. So everybody shouldn't treat me as if, I brought this on myself. And that's how
Right.
sometimes it makes you feel as though you brought this on yourself.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's no helping it. They don't
No,
care. They don't care. The
no.
ones who don't want to do anything are the ones who get all the help. The ones who are going to work and have a job and have other responsibilities. And like you said, you have to pick. Either I can sit in the emergency room, lose my job, lose my house, or I can take my child home, try to figure it out, work and pay my bills. But there's no in between in any help. And even with when you do get a slot in some type of program, it's intense therapy where it's Monday through Friday, 2 hours. Okay, well,
Yeah.
that's in Baltimore. That's 2 hours away. So I have to
Hmm.
leave my house 2 hours, come to y'all for two
Yeah.
hours, drive back home for 2 hours. How am I going to work for a 2 or 3 week trial? There's no way. There's no possible way. But they don't see it that way. Oh, well, this is the program we have available, and this is what we can do. Is it guaranteed to help my child? Because I got to work. I
In
got
most
I got a
cases,
mortgage.
it doesn't. In most cases, it doesn't. And
Yeah.
Morgan was in a she was in a program at Kennedy Creek. It went for a year. I want to say it was like 3 days a week. When I tell you, I had to tell them we couldn't do it anymore. It was from 8 to 12. They had it where she was working directly with, no, it was like 8 to 11, but it was in Anne Arundel County. I think it was in Columbia. By the time it took, I had to get there, and it took me like an hour and a half to get there. Then there was a 3 hour span. They told me she was going to be, they were going to work with her social anxiety and work with her with other staff members. They never did that. What they did was she didn't want to deal with them. They made me think they had all these methods in place. So what I had to do is continue to do the role play. When I tell you, Ebony, I was in there, first of all, I was already tired with the drive.
Right.
I was in there all that time. Then I had to leave, take her to school, and then come back home and work. And when I tell you, at toward the end, when I didn't see any of the stuff working, I had to tell them, I said, I can't do this anymore. They kept saying, well, give us like 3 more weeks. After 3 more weeks, give us another month. I said, I can't do it anymore. And when I came home one day, I had a meltdown. I thought I was going to lose my mind. When I say I went into a crying spell, my son probably, I think my son was in the 11th grade. He looked at me. He was like, it was just one thing. I told him I needed to go get my hairdresser to do something. He was going to the movies with one of his friends. I sat in the hairdresser. They kept talking. Everybody was talking and having a good time, and I'm going into a meltdown because he's supposed to go to the movies, say like at 10:30, and here it is 11 o'clock, and he's putting his life on hold for me, which is one thing I
Right.
never wanted him to do. By the time I got to the house, I felt so bad because his friends was waiting on him. I dropped the bag, and I just, that's all I needed, and I just lost it.
Right.
And he just kept saying, Mom, it's okay, it's okay. But it wasn't that, it was just the whole experience. And at the end of it, at the end of almost a year, we hadn't accomplished anything. I was so furious. I was furious. So I know exactly how you feel. I know exactly how you feel. One last thing, I know, because we over our time, Ebony. Normally we do from 8 to 9, but this is so interesting, and I mean, I definitely got to have you back on. I don't know if you froze. Are you frozen, Ebony? Is it me? Is it you? But anyway, I wanted to ask, have you ever looked into any support groups? That's what I wanted to ask. I'm not sure if you froze or because I don't see you moving or what have you. But you know, I do want to thank Ebony. I'm waiting for her to come back on because I wanted to ask, is she in any support groups, or is she, does she attend anything outside of, dealing with her family? Because I do believe that sometimes these support groups are very important. And I believe even being on the advocacy, me and Crystal and Jill, we always say that this is therapy alone. Just being able to talk about it, just being able to converse, coming up with ideas, and being able to know that you're not in this by yourself. So I think I want to just say thank you so much for Ebony. I guess she dropped off or whatever, but I want to say thank her. I want to thank her so much for sharing her story with me about her and Caden. I also want to start highlighting some other parents. I want to have shows where we can pull parents in and they can tell us their story. Some of it differs from Maryland, some of it differs from New York, but we want to try to have someone from every state to come on our show and tell us about your child. Tell us about how the state has helped. The funding, is there funding there? Are there programs there? Because some of these things, what we want to do is petition for these programs to be in our state. We want to go to our state officials and ask, why can't we get more funding for our children? Why can't we get more funding for programs for our children? Um, um, a lot of research. Why can't we do these things? So if you're listening and you would like to be on advocacy, please reach out to me because we definitely want to be able to share your story on advocacy. And again, it's just to help others. It's just to help us all because we're wandering in the wilderness trying to figure this thing out. But if we do it together, I think it would be a benefit to all of us. So with that being said, I want to say good night. I want to thank Aiden. Thank Ebony for being on here, and thank her for sharing her story about her, Kaden, and the rest of her family. Okay, so okay, we will see you next week, and hopefully we'll have someone else to spotlight on here. All right, enjoy your weekend. Bye.